Right, one of the things that we've been covering throughout this week is Cosatu's 13th Congress and first female president announced. We've been following all the developments. Right now, one of the ministers in the economic cluster, you can see him there, Ibrahim Patel, is addressing those Cosatu delegates. Let's dip in and then Bongani will be speaking more about what happened today.
In the country. In 1998, 1999, I remember the resolutions passed, the statement Cosatu made, criticizing and attacking the decision of Old Mutual to move to London. It is time that we welcome them back home, show that in fact we can attract big corporations, that South Africa is where we need to have the headquarters of many of these corporations. This is where they need to create jobs. This is where they need to invest. This is the economy they must help us to build. Part of the investment story, comrades, is a story of infrastructure, rolling out dams and water pipelines, electricity. In fact, electricity is one of our real success stories. Over the last period since the election, we've had more than 1 million new homes connected to the electricity, just since the 2014 election. And we need to boost that more. We're building the world's 4th largest coal-fired power station in Kusile, in Mpumalanga. We're building the world's 5th largest coal-fired power station, Medupi, in Lephalale, in Limpopo. We're building renewable energy plants of solar and wind so that we in fact are able to create the energy to drive the economy, to electrify the homes of South Africans. But part of that creates a challenge. How do we fund our infrastructure program? As President Ramaphosa said in his address to Congress, our infrastructure investment in real terms has been coming down. Cabinet decided, and the President will announce this when the stimulus package is announced, that in fact we want to reverse that. We want to boost infrastructure spending. We want to put more money into laying the foundations of growth. Water, electricity, schools, clinics, infrastructure in ICT. These are critical and important. Universities. They build the foundation for an inclusive economy, for South Africa that can in fact provide a good quality life for all of its people. And that will be the story we take to the investment conference that the President is convening in October this year. But it also requires a discussion with Cosatu. How do we shift the budget of government so that we put more money into investment? That's an absolutely critical that we need to do. The changing composition of public spending, that more is put into building the schools for the children of the working class, the clinics for the national health insurance, the universities for the young graduates that will power our economy. How do we build that? That's going to be essential, and it's a discussion we need to have with the union movement. The 5th challenge is that of the new technology, the 4th industrial revolution. It's a vast change where robots are going to play a bigger role in production, where artificial intelligence, big data will change who serves you at the bank, who serves you at the shop. In fact, today in big cities in China, more than half of what people buy is bought online and delivered to them. So we're seeing a fundamental shift in our factories, shops, mines, banks, and other places will work. And where's the voice of the working class in this? What are the measures that we need to put in place? Government has a package of measures that we need to talk through with the union movement on skills, developing new skills for the new economy, a social plan to help workers who are affected by this, a new earnings and incomes policy where earnings are not so linked to work as it's been in the past, investment in these new technologies, and looking at the macroeconomic impact of all of this. We need an accord that helps society to manage the new technologies to benefit ordinary people so that they don't become the big disruptors of the lives of people with devastating consequences. Technology does disrupt. We can't stop that. What we can ensure is that disruption does not damage deeply the lives of the working poor, those who have very little, who can't live off the earnings of capital. And we've announced we're setting up a digital economy commission, and it's one where we see a very big partnership with the Communication Workers Union, but in fact all the affiliates of Cosatu. The sixth challenge is the challenge of dealing with corruption and state capture. Corruption and state capture is not something up there. We've calculated that based on our assessment of the likely effects of this, it could be taking 27 billion rand out of the GDP. That corruption takes place in the state, but also in the private sector. And that money, the jobs that are lost as a result of that, are jobs that workers can benefit from. And so that battle is one Cosatu has been strong in, and one that Cosatu needs to partner strongly with government to clean up state-owned companies, to ensure, in fact, they serve the people. There's the challenge of transformation as I begin to move towards wrapping up, and that challenge of transformation up to now has been a debate about black economic empowerment. Vital, important. But the question is, how do we empower workers? How do we get workers to serve, to elect people, to be on the boards of companies, to have shares in companies, to have some of the earnings that come out of companies going to workers, building more cooperatives, building a stronger social economy. This year, we've put into the Competition Amendment Bill the first provision that talks about worker ownership and expanding worker ownership. And we need to talk with Cosatu about the practical ways of dealing with this. There are other challenges of renewable energy, managing the dynamic between renewable energy and the jobs in the coal value chain. There's the question of China. It's become the world's second largest economy in dollar terms, but really it is the world's largest economy in what economists call purchasing power parity. And China has in the past exported many goods to the African continent. We're now working with China to export capital so that we create factories and mines and railway lines here on the African continent. But the challenge is for our government to protect the interests of South Africans. We can't ask even our friends in BRICS to do that. So it's to ensure that the labor that is used in the factories are local labor, that we procure locally, and that is the big discussion again that Cosatu need to have with us. As I conclude, I'm reminded of a slogan, or of a saying, I should say, a saying that the late Comrade Joe Slovo used to remind us of. He said to us after the ANC and the party was unbanned, Comrade Slovo used to remind us, he said, when we win the election, when we begin to govern, when responsibility of the country passes into the hands of the people through the colors of the African National Congress and the Tripartite Alliance, our job in government is to bake bread, not to bake slogans, to find practical answers in creating jobs, to find ways of building houses where the roofs don't leak, to find ways to ensure that large companies don't have a stranglehold in the economy, not through slogans, through practical action. If there was more time, we can share with you many practical action across government. If there was more, it was one last thing I needed to say is much still needs to be done. Cosatu, we need you. South Africa needs a strong Cosatu. South Africa needs a federation that represents all the working people, every workplace, so that we can, in fact, create an economy that creates millions of new jobs, that, in fact, creates an inclusive economy. Thank you very much. Mandla.
Well, Minister Ibrahim Patel